Mike Cardano with RotoExperts in the Fantasy Sports Network, back with you to talk some fantasy football. Yeah, I know it's smack dab in the middle of baseball season, but it's never too early to talk fantasy football. Now, last week, our own Scott Engel made some news calling out fellow SiriusXM Fantasy Sports radio host Jeff Manns from Fantasy Alarm for picking Matt Forte #1 overall in the FSTA Experts Draft, which kind of kicks off the whole mock drafting season. Now, as it turns out, it really isn't that big of a deal, as no matter where you look, running backs Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, Adrian Peterson, and Matt Forte all seem to be the consensus first 4 picks in one order or another. But after that, things start to get a little hairy as differences of opinion start to take hold. Now, we've got Corey Parson on the line with us today. Some of you may know Corey as the fantasy executive. He's the radio producer of the RotoExperts in the Morning show that airs weekdays on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio and also simulcast right here on the Fantasy Sports Network. Corey has a unique perspective on things as he gets to interact with both the show hosts and also the listeners, and over the years he's developed quite a reputation as a savvy fantasy footballer. So Corey, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
Doing very good, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to this opportunity to talk a little fantasy football with you as we get ready to kick off the draft season.
Now, you were out in San Francisco at the FSTA Experts Draft and saw firsthand how some of these industry pros were attacking the draft boards. Explain to some of the listeners what's going on here. We hear all the time that the NFL is now a passing league and that there are hardly any more feature backs, yet clearly running backs have dominated the top of the draft boards. What's going on with this?
Well, the reason why the running backs, especially the big 4 at the top, clearly dominate most of the draft boards that you've seen in early mock drafts and some leagues that play out right now is because those running backs produce well for fantasy football. When you look at the system they're in, they're going to dominate the workload. They're going to catch passes. They're all excellent near the goal line. Their ability hasn't been much of a concern. So those 4 running backs right at the top, they do things that fantasy football owners need out of their first-round pick. You only got 4 of them out there. Like you said, after that, it gets kind of hairy. But LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, and Matt Forte are clearly the top 4 picks in fantasy football. Even though they're running backs, Mike, the thing about it is what they do with their pass catching, their receiving, and how much of the offense they dominate with their touches. It's a game of opportunity, and those guys have the most opportunities.
Now, this would be PPR or a standard league, right? Either way, they're going first.
Either way, they're going first. In the PPR, they're going first, and in standard league, they're going first. But after that, that's where you get the changes. Right.
Well, suppose you're in a 12-team league and you're picking 12 or 13 on the turn. Is there any logic in taking, let's say, Peyton Manning and Des Bryant, for instance, to make sure you get the cream of the crop of those positions if the top guys are already off the board, and wait till your 3rd and 4th pick to take in your running backs?
I can see people doing that. Me, myself, I would not do that. I like to wait on my quarterback. I like to get my quarterback a little bit later in the draft. But definitely, if you're on the wheel and you want to go with a guy like Des Bryant or maybe a guy like Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall, on the wheel, I try to get 2 wide receivers right off the top. Even when I come back to 3rd or 4th, I'm still not focusing on running back. I think running back is a little bit deeper than people think. You can get a guy like a Toby Gerhardt, that's going to dominate volume and touches out there in Jacksonville. You can get a guy like a Pierre Thomas, who caught 77 passes last season. These guys can be had in 5th or 6th round of drafts right now. So I like to start with myself about on the turn coming in that spot. I like to get 3 stud wide receivers right off the top, and then I put my team together for there. But a guy like Peyton Manning will be nowhere near none of my teams because I don't draft quarterbacks early, Mike.
Now, a question that I get all the time, and I think it would be great for the listeners to hear your opinion on it. Do you look at the first few rounds differently in a PPR versus a non-PPR league in terms of the composition of how you put your roster together? Are the same players going for you in the beginning either way, and do the changes only come later on for you? Or are you starting to really think about those differences right in the first round?
In the PPR, I definitely want to get pass-catching running backs. I want to get wide receivers that are heavily targeted with my early-on selection. In a non-PPR league, then you can start to see me come off of that strategy a little bit. In non-PPR, I could go with a little bit more running back. You got guys like Monty Ball, DeMarco Murray, players like that I normally wouldn't. Well, I would have Murray Rentai in either standard or PPR. But some of those players, those running backs, I would actually start to consider a quarterback a little bit earlier if I'm in the standard league, because those quarterback points can really add up to standard leagues, and you seem to need a big quarterback to win in most of those leagues, not all of them. So some guys that come to mind are guys like Eddie Lacy, Le'Veon Bell, Henry Foster, Doug Martin. In a standard league where there's no point per reception, guys that get pushed up the board because of the yardage they can generate, as well as the touchdowns. And the quarterbacks up the board, too, where guys like Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, who could throw 40, 50 touchdown passes, a little more premium come on those positions in a non-PPR league.
All right, now before I let you go, and I know it's early, I'm not going to hold you to it, but if the season started tomorrow and your draft was tomorrow, give me your top 12 picks.
My top 12 right now going off the board for me is Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, Matt Forte third, Adrian Peterson fourth, Calvin Johnson fifth, Marius Thomas sixth, Des Bryant seventh, AJ Green eighth. This is the one that's going to get a lot of people. Antonio Brown ninth in the PPR. Love Antonio Brown. DeMarco Murray 10, Eddie Lacy 11, and Pittsburgh Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell, the 12th guy. That's my top 12 in the PPR right now, Mike.
Wait, Corey, what do I got to do to get a jet anywhere? No chance of any jet appearing anywhere here?
You know what? I tell you what, later on in drafts, you might want to look at the young rookie tight end, Chase Amaro. Rookie tight ends normally don't hit right off the bat, so he would be a project, especially the jet offense is not really great for fantasy. But you know what? You never know. Chris Johnson said he can be a 2,000-yard back, Mike. I doubt it, but he could have some value as a running back, too, in fantasy football because he will play 16 games. He's a very tough guy.
Well, I would think he's going to catch some passes in the PPR league. He might have some value. No, he's kind of like LaDainian Tomlinson was towards the end of his career when he went to the Jets.
I think so. I think you can see that type of production. But the thing about it is, LaDainian Tomlinson, what he has inside his chest, that heart that he had inside his chest, Chris Johnson doesn't have that. That's a different story.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, Fantasy Executive, ladies and gentlemen. Corey, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Love it.